Well, we're going to do an old song that I remember doing a long time.
Country love never promised harmony, especially in Nashville's rough and tumble glory days. Tonight, we slip behind the rhinestone curtain to uncover 20 romances that set Music Row ablaze, proving that behind every chart topper there's a B-side of betrayal, addiction, or jaw-dropping devotion. Every outlaw tale needs a spark, and few flames burned hotter than Johnny Cash and June Carter's forbidden magnetism. In the early 60s, they crisscrossed America on package tours, harmonizing on hymns each night while Cash's first marriage smoldered back home. Bandmates whispered about motel doors clicking shut at dawn. Nurses whispered about pill bottles labeled Cash Jr., bulging with amphetamines. When Johnny finally proposed on stage in 1968, a brazen public act of contrition, the crowd roared, but half the auditorium still called it sanctified theft. June's unwavering faith dragged him through withdrawals and relapses, proving redemption sells almost as many records as sin. Far darker thunder rolled over Hank Williams Sr. and Audrey, a couple who seemed to test whether genius could coexist with volatility. Hank drank to drown back pain. Audrey drank to match his volume. They fought loud enough for neighbors to take notes that later found their way into biographies. Audrey tried singing harmony on stage, was booed, and blamed Hank, so he wrote, "I'm so lonesome I could cry," and sang it alone. On Christmas Eve 1952, she served divorce papers. A week later, Hank died in the back seat of a Cadillac with morphine in his veins. Willie Nelson and Shirley Collie completed the holy trinity of combustible beginnings. Shirley was a rockabilly darling who believed cowboys kept secrets, until a maternity bill addressed to Willie arrived in the mail. Her heartbreak inspired Willie's road anthem, "Hello Walls." But the bigger scandal was his grin while telling reporters it was cheaper than alimony. Their split left Willie single, broke, and suddenly mythic, setting the pattern that every messy chapter can be recycled into a timeless chorus. From this point on, romance in Nashville would always carry a whiff of gunpowder and stage smoke, because audiences discovered they preferred their heroes human, flawed, brazen, and dangling on the edge of ruin. George Jones and Tammy Wynette mastered the art of turning domestic carnage into 3-minute masterpieces. They married in a tiny church in 1969 after a whirlwind courtship that included one high-speed chase in a Cadillac and George firing a shotgun at his own tour bus tires so he couldn't be dragged to rehab. Within months, the possum was missing shows. Tammy was dialing 911, and Music City paparazzi were camped outside their driveway like vultures with tape recorders. Yet every time they cut a new duet, listeners swore they heard angels. That tension, intimacy clashing with imminent collapse, kept fans glued, wondering which lyrics doubled as coded apologies. After the divorce, they cruised the interstate in separate buses but still recorded Golden Ring, a love song so convincing DJs assumed they had secretly reunited. George later joked, "We couldn't live together, but the charts sure loved when we tried." Hovering above them was producer Billy Sherrill, the architect of the countrypolitan sound. Sherrill styled Tammy as the mascara-streaked martyr of "Stand By Your Man." Critics applauded, feminists cringed, rumor mills insisted Billy and Tammy were an off-the-books item. Whether true or not, the gossip proved irresistible, framing each session as a potential triangle where art, commerce, and forbidden affection collided. Porter Wagoner and Dolly Parton offered a different flavor of friction, a professional partnership so electric that audiences demanded a romance narrative even when none existed. Porter's sequined suits and avuncular grin masked a possessive streak. Dolly's wigs hid firecracker ambition. When she wrote "I Will Always Love You" as her resignation letter, Porter threatened a lawsuit, then watched the song make her a global icon while he pocketed writer royalties. Their feud sputtered through the courts until the 80s, proving that sometimes the nastiest breakups occur between people who never officially dated. Stick around, because the next trio will take volatility to felony levels. When Glenn Campbell crossed paths with teenage prodigy Tanya Tucker, their chemistry exploded like menthols in moonshine. Glenn was fresh off Rhinestone Cowboy glory, But behind closed doors, he was freebasing cocaine off gold records. Tanya, barely out of high school, matched him line for line. Their fights became tabloid catnip. Guitars hurled through windows, police summoned to Caesar's Palace suites, bruises hidden under stage makeup. It ended with a restraining order and Tanya writing "strong enough to bend" as both warning and confession. Years later, Tanya would admit that the affair nearly cost her vocal cords and sanity, while Glenn, sober at last, called it "that beautiful disaster." Their cautionary saga reminded Nashville that smash hits can echo like sirens warning of a wreck just around the bend. Waylon Jennings and Jesse Coulter embodied outlaw yin and yang. Waylon's daily diet reportedly included 6 pints of coffee, a fistful of speed, and creative excuses to avoid the DEA. Jesse countered with gospel roots and a steel spine. One night agents stormed his studio. Waylon flipped off the lights, swallowed the stash, and recorded, "Don't you think this outlaw bit's done got out of hand?" Jesse bailed him out, drove him home, and laid down a harmony that turned the song into a testament of tough love. Merle Haggard and Bonnie Owens added an extra layer of entanglement. Bonnie divorced Buck Owens, tutored Merle on stagecraft, then watched him rocket past both men on the charts. Merle credited her as "my Merle whisperer" even while romancing backup dancers. Dinners at their Bakersfield home resembled intervention meetings, Buck dropping by unannounced, Merle drunk on muscatel, Bonnie mediating with coffee and cold logic. Eventually, she stepped back into friend and harmony singer status, preserving the legacy even as her heart cracked. And if you think broken glass and broken promises are dramatic, wait until bloodlines get tangled. The Williams lineage proves that lightning can strike twice and burn the same porch down both times. Hank Jr., raised on the legend of a father he barely remembered, carved his own path by nearly dying in a Montana cliff fall and then roaring back with family tradition. His marriages played out like verses in that song. Gwen Yeargain endured honky-tonk nights and hospitalization. Becky White weathered backwoods brawls and sudden fame. Each split fed tabloids enough copy to wrap a week's worth of catfish, and Junior's sales only climbed. Charlie Rich presented a different breed of chaos. He and Margaret stayed married for 5 decades, but the Silver Fox's temper had its own tour schedule. When he torched John Denver's CMA envelope with a cigarette lighter, Margaret yanked him off stage by the wrist and hissed, "We're going home." The stunt got him banned from network broadcasts, yet, behind closed doors, shot back up radio rotations out of morbid curiosity. Dwight Yoakam, meanwhile, wore tight jeans and Ohio swagger, courting whispers that he was sneaking out of the Palomino Club with actress Sharon Stone. Neither confirmed, neither denied. Both smiled. Nashville's old guard clutched pearls while MTV viewers flooded record stores. Lesson learned. Sometimes the mere scent of Hollywood is enough to start a prairie fire in Tennessee. For country traditionalists, these dynastic sagas raised uncomfortable questions about whether talent could be inherited without the accompanying mayhem. Columnists debated nature versus nurture, while royalty checks kept answering for both. By the time Hank Jr. growled, "If you don't like Hank Williams, you can kiss my..." You know the line. The debate was settled. Audiences would gladly trade decorum for authenticity. And as Dwight sashayed onto red carpets with California glitter dust on his boots, it became clear the genre's family tree was sprouting branches in every uncharted direction. Jerry Lee Lewis arrived in Nashville like a meteor, bragging that his fingers could outplay any guitarist alive. But the Sun Records piano prodigy detonated his own career when reporters discovered his new bride Myra was both 13 years old and his first cousin once removed. British tour promoters canceled mid-flight. Angry parents burned records on the courthouse lawn. Myra remembers hiding in hotel closets while protesters chanted, "Lock him up." In later interviews, she alleged nights of alkali rage. Jerry pacing with a pistol, slurring threats if she dared call home. Kristofferson and Rita Coolidge provided a more polished yet equally combustible spectacle. Chris was Oxford-educated, helicopter flying, and hell-bent on living like Hemingway. Rita glided between soul, pop, and country with Grammy-ready ease. A shared apartment in Malibu witnessed marathon songwriting binges fueled by vodka and jealousy. The breaking point came when Chris ditched Rita's rehearsal to drink with Janis Joplin's former entourage. Rita slammed the door, Chris wrote, "Help me make it through the night," and Nashville picked sides like it was the Super Bowl. Willie Nelson, single again after Shirley, spun matrimonial chaos into a running joke. He wed Connie Koopke, then Annie D'Angelo, leaving accountants bewildered about which ranch belonged to which ex. When the IRS seized his assets in 1990, Willie released the IRS tapes, "Who'll Buy My Memories," and quipped, "My wives already own half. Uncle Sam can lease the pasture." The public ate it up, forgiving tax evasion faster than a missed guitar note. All three sagas proved one rule: scandal destroys the polite, but it only enlarges the legends. Because when Sunday sermons start quoting country lyrics as cautionary tales, you know the sinners have already won the soundtrack war and the congregation is still humming along. The next set of stories will test whether public image can survive the private battlefield. Loretta Lynn carved her legend by singing truths other women whispered only to mirrors. Yet at home in Butcher Hollow, Oliver Doolittle Lynn staggered through the door smelling like corn liquor and lipstick that wasn't Loretta's. She threatened him with a cast-iron skillet, then poured the fury into Fist City and The Pill, records so raw radio stations banned them, boosting sales overnight. Doo bragged, "She'd be nothing without me to fight with," an accidental admission that abuse had become a grotesque muse. Clint Black and Lisa Hartman Black faced softer but relentless scrutiny. Fans accused Lisa of Hollywoodizing Clint's cowboy credibility when she joined him on When I Said I Do. Industry insiders rolled eyes at the nepotism until the duet stayed at #1 for 6 weeks and won ACM Single of the Year. Critics quieted. Love had conquered at least that skirmish. Patty Loveless's divorce from drummer-manager Terry Lovelace coincided with her vocal cord surgery, birthing whispers that heartbreak and scalpel scars sharpened her mountain twang. In interviews, she deflected, saying only that struggle puts the high lonesome in your marrow. Listeners believed her because every note on "How Can I Help You Say Goodbye" felt like picking scabs you hadn't realized were there. After all, the gap between stage spotlight and kitchen lamplight can swallow a person whole. Country stars survive by turning that darkness into melody, hoping listeners never notice the bruise behind the rhinestone. So buckle up. The next chorus might not name names, but everyone in town will recognize the silhouette. Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn insisted they were brother and sister in song, but that didn't stop fans from circling tour bus parking lots, hoping to catch a midnight kiss. When a journalist asked if they'd ever shared more than a microphone, Conway winked and replied, "Wouldn't you like to buy that record?" Sales spiked by Friday. Merle Haggard once teased that Bonnie Owens was the only ex-wife I pay with applause. That cryptic quip fueled fresh speculation about why Bonnie kept harmonizing with him long after the divorce ink dried. Tabloids printed flowcharts trying to track who loved whom and when, creating a soap opera no scriptwriter could match. Porter Wagoner, still smarting from Dolly's breakout, leaked stories suggesting she owed her solo success to secret romantic favors. Dolly fired back with an all-smile television appearance clutching a $100 million BMI award and saying, "The best revenge is a royalty check." Dwight Yoakam's rumored fling with Sharon Stone became a parlor game inside every Nashville bar. Bouncers claimed to spot her backstage wearing his oversized hat. Paparazzi produced blurry photos that could have been any blonde actress in 5 states. Dwight, asked directly, said, "I don't discuss my love life unless it's on vinyl," and spun on his heel. The non-answer was the answer. Album sales doubled west of the Mississippi. In Music City, rumor isn't a nuisance, it's a revenue stream. Whispers keep turnstiles clicking, keep bar tabs open, keep midnight radio DJs teasing exclusive news that may or may not exist. And when whispers grow loud enough, they harden into folklore, stories future songwriters will mine like coal. Because in Nashville, the phrase "no comment" really means stay tuned, and every unanswered headline buys an artist one more encore. Before we close the ledger, we have one final chapter where public battles turn heartbreak into heritage. When Winona Judd's whirlwind romance with Arch Kelly III felt like a moonlit reprieve after years shadowed by industry gossip about her mother and sister. But the marriage unraveled under tour pressures and infidelity rumors, climaxing in a courtroom where Winona balanced a Bible on one hand and custody papers in the other. She walked out, wiped tears, and belted "No One Else on Earth" that evening, proof the show really does go on. Waylon Jennings, decades sober, once confessed that during the height of his addiction, Jesse Coulter would sit on the bathroom floor counting his heartbeats to make sure each silence ended with another breath. Jesse called those years holding the line until daylight. The line held. Waylon died in 2002 with Jesse at his side, their tale rebranded from caution to commitment. George Jones and Tammy Wynette never remarried, yet they phoned each other nightly while touring separate nostalgia circuits. One security guard recalled Tammy giggling like a teenager as George serenaded through the receiver, then hanging up to sing "Divorce." Johnny Cash and June Carter spent 35 years rewriting their beginnings, swapping guilt for gospel. When June passed in May 2003, Johnny followed 4 months later, the ultimate encore fade-out. Each of these stories ends the same way all human stories do, in silence. But the songs remain stubbornly alive. A new generation streams these classics without knowing the scars that shaped them, singing along to choruses forged in motel fistfights, courthouse hallways, and funeral parlors. The legends may rest, yet the amplifiers hum on, ready for the next pair of dreamers to step up and gamble love against legacy. And if history is any guide, the house always wins, but it pays out in melodies that outlive the gamblers. So as the spotlight dims on this reel of rapture and regret, remember that country music doesn't sanitize its ghosts. It invites them to sing harmony on the final chorus. These 20 stories prove that rhinestones glitter brightest against darkness. One couple courted controversy through age gaps, another through amphetamines. Some survived, others burned out on the back roads of fame. But every shocking headline fed the genre's raw authenticity. When you cue up a classic duet, listen for the unspoken harmony, the secret arguments, the court dockets, the midnight reconciliations stitched between verses. The next time a pristine love ballad drifts from the radio, remember, somewhere behind that sweet chorus there might be a hospital bill, a pawned wedding ring, or a pistol tucked in the glove box, waiting to turn heartache into art. So the next time a dusty jukebox crackles to life in a roadside bar, lean in close. Behind the fiddle runs and steel guitar sobs, you'll hear coded confessions, hospital bills disguised as love letters, court transcripts masquerading as bridge sections, kisses that tasted like bourbon and cost a career. Knowing the backstory won't ruin the magic. It deepens the echo. Because country music was never about perfection. It was about telling the truth so blunt it hurt, then selling the hurt back to us wrapped in a 3-chord heartbeat we can't stop replaying on every restless highway. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.